Being trafficked is bad enough, but new research shows the turmoil doesn't stop there. Australia picks up its game against the Islamic State, plus freedoms erode as Bangladesh experiences dwindling freedom of speech, and 4 are shot dead in Nepal. These stories are coming up next. This is the Asia Brief. Good morning, everyone. Steve Miller here on this beautiful Thursday, September 10th, 2015. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to join me. We'll go ahead and begin with the plight of children who are trafficked. For the better part of the past year, Asia News Weekly has shared stories about human trafficking and various human rights abuses, often discussing the issue at length with Human Rights Watch. When you hear the stories of those who either fall into such situations, whether by deceit or by force, it tugs on your heart. Now, new research shines a clearer light on some of the lasting effects on trafficked children. Researchers interviewed 387 boys and girls aged between 10 and 17 in Cambodia, Thailand, and Vietnam who had been trafficked for sex work, forced begging, and fishing. Some 56% of those surveyed were depressed, a third suffered from anxiety disorder, and about 25% had post-traumatic stress disorder, according to the study published in JAMA Pediatrics. The study also revealed that about 12% had attempted suicide and 16% had at least thought about it. And that was just in the month preceding the study. Kathy Zimmerman, one of the authors of the study, said, quote, "These findings are especially disturbing, giving estimates that each year thousands, if not millions of children are trafficked and suffer severe abuse, such as being beaten up, tied, or chained, choked, burned, cut with a knife, and subjugated to sexual violence." End quote. And here's just a portion of some of the breakdown within the survey. Just over 50% had been exploited for sex work. About 1/3 had been abused sexually, physically, or both, mainly by their trafficker or by their employer. Sexual violence was more prevalent among girls, who represented 82% of those surveyed. Ligia Kiss, a lecturer at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, who actually led the study, said that while counseling is available to survivors, services are insufficient. Australia has stepped up its game and announced it would take in 12,000 refugees from Syria above and beyond its current humanitarian intake quota, Prime Minister Tony Abbott said on Wednesday. Quote, "Australia remains committed to the international effort to counter Daesh, using the alternative name for ISIS, which threatens stability in Iraq and the Middle East and the security of Australians at home and in our region." End quote. The United Nations High Commission on Refugees estimates that 850,000 people are expected to cross the Mediterranean seeking refuge in Europe this year and next. Abbott also announced that Australia's Air Force would expand its role to combat ISIS. Previously, the Royal Australian Air Force limited their role in airstrikes to refueling and intelligence gathering, but will now actively participate in sorties, heeding a request from the United States. The space for freedom of speech has gradually been shrinking in Bangladesh, said National Human Rights Commission Chairman Professor Minazal Rahman, calling it a threat to journalism and a threat to the right to information and human rights. He said the state of Bangladesh should be challenged on how much free speech had been curbed by Section 57 of the Information and Communication Technology Act, but he noted that that would be difficult, as Bangladesh's High Court rejected a challenge to the provision's legality. According to Section 57, any person who deliberately publishes or transmits false, obscene, and derogatory information on a website or in any other electronic form can be sentenced anywhere between 7 and 14 years of imprisonment and fined up to 10 million taka, which is just shy of $130,000. The section is not popular, to say the least, and critics argue it violates Section 39 of the Constitution that guarantees free speech, expression, and the press. The nation's High Court, however, has told authorities to explain to them within 1 month how Section 57 isn't contradictory to the Constitution. And speaking of the Constitution, violent protests have continued in Nepal's southern region, with demonstrators attacking police, who in turn shot and killed at least 4 individuals. Nepal, which emerged from civil war in 2006, is preparing a new constitution that would divide the country into 7 federal provinces. But many in the southern region oppose that plan, as it would split their region among larger provinces and with other ethnic groups. Unfortunately, 30 people have now been killed since the draft constitution was unveiled last month. That'll do it for me today. If you have any thoughts or opinions about any of these stories, I hope you'll take an opportunity to share them with me. The Asia Brief is a special feature of the Asia News Weekly podcast. If you enjoyed the podcast, please share it with your friends, and if you haven't, subscribe. Subscribing is free, and when you do, the next episode is delivered automatically to you. You can subscribe on our website, asianewsweekly.net, or in your favorite podcast application. You can also keep up with more news from the region by following Asia News Weekly on Facebook or Twitter. And if you have any comments, questions, or feedback, be sure to drop us a line. That email address is podcast@asianewsweekly.net. Thank you so much for joining me, and until next time, remember to be true to yourself and to always be awesome.